Ah.
It's
We got.
another,
Oh,
right?
I was like, oh, somebody
Wow.
singing,
There
serenading.
we
Wait a
go.
minute. Okay.
Okay.
Another wonderful day in the clouds, my brother.
Yes. I was about to say it's these delicious clouds.
Aren't they though,
Look
bro?
like
Aren't they
cotton
though?
candy
Ah,
over nice blue Cypress Hill.
yeah,
And I only
man.
said that just because it just sounds right.
Don't
Might
right?
not be right, but it sounds so right.
Hey, I definitely felt the vibe, brother.
Definitely. Most definitely.
It's almost
Yes,
unfortunate that we have to get into the biz with the peoples today.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a it's gonna seem like a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but there's always a silver lining, right? Clouds always have a silver lining.
They always help that grass look green on the other side.
Indeed. So why don't we go on and going on and get in here with the people.
The people. What's up, y'all?
What it do? We have arrived.
So let's get it popping.
You already know what this is. It is afternoon. Yes. I am your boy Al. This is your boy Lavis. And we are here with you on this lovely Sunday. Purple emojis in the chat if you will.
Yes.
Surely appreciate y'all stopping through today. It's been a hell of a weekend, man.
Yes, it has. Been a hell of a week. Been a hell of a weekend.
Yeah.
We got bombarded with a bunch of content, but we're here to talk about the lingering one, the one that still lingers on most people's mind. We're talking about that Falcon and Winter Soldier, man.
Yeah. We are.
It was a roller coaster ride.
It was, wasn't it?
Definitely. In different ways, it was.
It definitely was.
So, yeah. Shake it off, man.
Let me just ask you. Let me just ask you. Straight out the gate. How did you feel about that finale, man?
I felt like that finale was almost kind of what I was worried about. There were elements that didn't completely like drag it down. There were some things that kept it on a level, but that's kind of the problem. Is like it was just on a level for a finale. It wasn't something that you'd be like, okay, I could see a season 2 of this. I could see a movie coming out of this. Like right after that, they wanted to announce that they're doing Captain America 4. And it's like, okay, great. But at the same time, it's like, do we really want a Captain America 4? Do we need a Captain America 4? Would we prefer maybe another better written or more action-packed season 2? I mean, I can see them making a movie out of it to where they can actually flesh certain things out and pay off other things in certain ways and blah 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 blah. They would do in the movies different than the shows. I get that, but it's like for me, it keeps bringing me back to the fact that last year was just a crazy year, and no matter how much we want to deny it or even just lean it or just take it out of the equation, you can't help it but realize that it affected these shows. Yeah. It sincerely affected the shows, and it has to. It's not a curve. It's not a you wanting to be like, no, I'm just they're on a high point, so I have to make sure I grade them that way. I mean, at the same time, you have to give them the same kind of handicap that everybody else had at the same time. Right. You know, there's a lot of different things, but I mean, not focusing on that with what we got, I feel yes, it still could have been rearranged and probably written a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe certain elements could have been taken out completely, and they could have just fleshed out the characters. You know, and you can even attest to that. The most interesting parts of this entire series so far was really how they showed the characters start to finish and their character arc. Most people really enjoyed that, and that was probably because they had to lean into that because they didn't get the action that they expected that they would get out of the show. And it kind of leads to people asking like, oh, you know, where'd the money go? And, you know, how much did they put in that and this? And I think most of it probably really went into the graphics because, I mean, if you look at like Falcon's Wings was dope. Okay.
Yes.
Like, he went through
Yes.
a whole costume change. The action in that the last episode to me was really dope. Although there were some cringy kinds of transitions that they did make, so, almost to the point where like the Baltrog and Falcon fight almost didn't make sense, because
Yeah.
it was like, if all this is going on, I understand that it could be happening in tandem, and of course they're not going to do the comic book, and I wish they would, like Ang Lee. I wish they bring that kind of back with some of these,
Mm-hmm.
where you had like the comic book look, so you could see that maybe Falcon and Baltrog are fighting up here, and then this is going down here with Sharon, and this is happening over here. Where we're like, that would be dope, and I think little aesthetics like that would actually make it a little better when they're lacking in the story like that. It's like, okay, Flag Smashers didn't really make sense, but you gotta admit it was kind of dope watching her be able to punch him over here, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it would give us more of an argument in that. And it's just, there was just certain things that, yes, I agree, it fell flat on certain points where we expected it. But again, we're gonna start talking about reasons and expectations and reasons and excuses, excuse me. There's just certain reasons why it was that way, and there was just certain excuses that they're going to have to lean on and probably do what they do in the business world and mix it up in that pot and make us look at it like, okay, so I didn't like the sausage in this gumbo, but the carrots and the little other meat, the bacon that you had in there was fine.
Right.
That's just the way we're going. That's a way we can lean into looking into it. But I know the homie over here, I be all zenned out, and he be sounding all zenned out, sitting there listening and letting me give my take. But then all of a sudden, he'll turn up with the Cyclops eyes.
Oh man,
and burn the forest down.
Now see, why you gotta go and spoiler alert the people like that?
Hey,
why you gotta do that, man?
Because it's Sunday. There's people out there probably doing yoga, listening to the show right now. Because we come in like this, and all of a sudden you go.
Yeah, then I pedal to the metal on that. You know how.
Yeah.
But look,
they're like,
it's been a very interesting. What is it? 48, 72 hours, something like that, since watching that finale. Now, I want to kind of set this up really quick, because when we talked about what we thought was going to happen with the finale, I recall, and please keep me honest, that I did say that as long as the finale gave us something in the realm of a 7.5, 8, that I would have the show itself still at like a 9, because I felt like we got everything I wanted out of the show for the most part. They wrapped up most of the loose ends by the end of episode 5, and so really it all came down to how they handled the Flag Smashers, the Power Broker, and what way they chose to end the series. So basically what that means is we was waiting for the show needed to put the finale for me needed to pull at least an 8 for the series for me to be high marks.
Right.
It didn't do it.
Yeah.
It didn't do it. I hate to say it, but it didn't do it. It did not. Now, it wasn't trash. I see some people in the two-way saying it was trash. It was not trash. What I felt with the finale was that finale left a lot to be desired up until maybe the last 10, 12 minutes of the episode. I think that the character development, the exposition that you got between Sam and Isaiah particularly was what saved the finale, in my opinion. And let me explain. We knew going into this that we needed a resolution on the Flag Smashers plot. And we also knew that was probably the shakiest point of the entire show. That's all we had been talking about, is Carly not really being believable, the Flag Smashers being kind of all over the place. And I really didn't have a lot of expectation for what they were going to do with them in the final episode. Like, there wasn't much you could really do. But what I will say is I didn't like how they drew out that for the entire episode, and then it kind of came to a screeching halt right at the end when Sam got to the point where my man turned into like TD Jakes on them.
Right.
You know, like
for sure.
it was
Definitely.
cool. It was cool,
Creflo
man.
Dollar.
He went Creflo, like he went full on, like he did that Al Sharpton. He channeled all of them,
He
all
did.
of them. And,
all three parts of that whole.
and here's the thing, because I gotta keep it a buck. When I first saw it, the first time I heard, we got to the speech, I was like, man, my brother's going in. Like, tell it. And you caught up in the feels and the emotion and everything else. And then they backdoor that with the Isaiah Bradley scene, and then all of a sudden you like, I ain't crying, you crying, because that's some powerful stuff, man. Like that was really, really powerful stuff, and it really did bring that journey of Sam becoming Captain America full circle. But when you go back and watch that scene again, that little sequence, I think it felt like Sam was talking for a good 7 minutes when he really only needed to be talking for 2. It was like
yes,
everything that he said, he repeated multiple times.
Yes.
In order to drive the point home. And this was, and when this was said, and when I realized this, I immediately thought about what the homie Josh had mentioned about Carly and how in all of her scenes, she was repeating the same message. And so to me, what that really tells me is that, kind of to your point, homie, whether it was the pandemic, whether it was just a change in decision, there were some changes made to that plot. And those changes really did affect the way that this plot hit. And the unfortunate thing about that is that it just so happens that this plot thread that didn't really hit the way we expected it to hit is kind of the thing that holds the whole damn show together.
Right.
I mean, yes, we're here to see, Bucky and Sam kind of transition into this new phase of their existence in the MCU. I totally get that. But again, the plot was the Flag Smashers. That was the thing that was kind of driving the whole good versus evil, villains versus heroes thing.
It was the only thing that gave them any kind of reason to be out there in them streets.
Exactly. Especially once Zemo got, Zemo was even brought in to kind of help them, but they didn't even give him a chance to cut loose and do anything because he goes right back to the raft. So really this was all, it all kind of fell on either the Flag Smashers and the Power Broker or John Walker, which brings me to another point real quick. How did you feel about the way that John Walker's character arc went in this finale?
So his arc to me was a quick summary. It was like, here it is, you have a man who's mentally unstable, but who tries to do the right thing despite of, who leaned on someone to be his moral compass and tried to fight his way back to be a good guy, despite the fact that he made completely irrational decisions even before taking the serum. It just pretty much gives you a good psyche look at the character, and I think it's probably their first, if you really look at it, their first attempt to actually flesh out a brand new character.
Yeah.
You were familiar with Falcon, you were familiar with Winter Soldier, and so those people, you really just wanted to see the conclusion and or what happened with the blip after the 5-year blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Then you bring in John Walker because of the Flag Smashers, which is a tether to that, and you end that with him potentially meeting up with somebody who at this point is ambiguous because we don't know if she works for Sword, Shield. Comic lore would say she has a lot to do with Hydra. But we don't know if maybe, we don't know too much about this character that he's working with now. I think on the end of that, when it comes to him and getting that new costume, even his comment about it, you and I both agreed that was kind of like another boner statement. It's like, yeah, it's the same thing, but black. Okay, what makes me different? Oh, now you can be a U.S. agent. Okay, but is she really for the U.S.? Like, what does she do? Why does she have his complete confidence? So that kind of shows
Right.
you that John Walker can also be manipulated and is a bit naive and will just follow orders. He is a soldier when it comes down to it through and through, but not a soldier that does it for the people. He's a soldier that does it because he feels his government, it will please his government. Um, so I think that was a quick, good little small tie up to him if you look at it in that respect. But as far as like if he has a high likability, even as a anti-hero villain, whatever you make him, I don't think that's anything to do with the actor. Um, but I do think it probably is lacking, and people probably won't care too much unless you do something bigger with him soon. So I think that's why they were immediately like Captain America 4 is coming out, and I'm pretty sure it's going to involve Falcon, Winter Soldier, Sharon, U.S. Agent, that chick that he's now we'll see a big expansion on that. Now we'll know what her game is. We'll look back at the show and we'll pull those pieces out of it. Now they know how they're going to write Captain America 4, blah, 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 blah. So, and you kind of still get all that with how they treated John Walker. So
Right.
his arc was okay. He was all right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was great. There was a little bit of trollage there at the end with my dude, but I felt like this show, again, because right now the only two frames of reference we have when it comes to MCU streaming shows is this and WandaVision. I feel like this show did exactly what WandaVision did in the sense that it gave you by the end a clear indication of where the characters are in their place in the MCU. But in terms of the actual story that it presented, there was nothing in that story that I felt like really gives you any type of sense of what's going on in the MCU at large right now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think where it kind of impacts this show is, again, this whole thing about expectation. And what really gets me with the whole thing is I'm starting to ask myself, is it that we don't get it? Or is it that White Suge hasn't gotten it yet? Because it's like, are we just trying to fit these shows into a box to say, we want you to give us this kind of a plot point and to open up the world and the lore from this perspective, and if you don't do that, then the show's not going to be dope? Or is it that, White Suge doesn't necessarily understand what it is that we as fans want to see in these shows, in the sense that the shows would be fine as they are constructed if they were executed better? Because that's where I'm at. Is I don't think either one of the concepts are bad. I don't think that even the writing choices were bad. I think that it's an execution thing.
I think the editing choices,
yes, and that as well,
a big effect on it too.
100. Now, one thing that I did want to mention, because I know the homie Josh kind of got into this during the watch party, talking about the action scenes and kind of how those left a little bit to be desired, and the way that they chose to film them made it kind of disjointed and took you out of it a little bit.
Right.
I agree, but to me, I don't. It's not. It's more than just the action. Because what I feel like is, in my opinion, the fight scene on the trucks, on the 18-wheelers, was the best action sequence of the whole series, including the finale. And that shouldn't be the case. The finale should have had the dopest action we had seen the entire season. That's what I was expecting with the way that they wrapped up episode 5, was that the action they were getting all of this exposition out the way and all of these loose ends tied up in order for us to focus specifically on the action. But we didn't get that. You know what I'm saying? No. It was the action. The action was still, I mean, it came out and you got action, but it wasn't on the level of what, at least for me personally, of what I would have expected from a season finale with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know what I'm saying? I mean, again, there was action, but it just didn't seem like it was dialed up to the level of what I thought it would be.
I think like I was saying, it's like we should have had certain aesthetics in place instead of the editing that they put into it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have probably mind if instead of you having Falcon fly straight in and you make this episode look like it's about to just wrap up, that, maybe you hype it up, go back to him opening the box, him putting the suit on, like get us amped up to see what he's about to do.
Right.
And then you put him in that environment. And that just makes it a little more okay, because at least now you have a high to come down from, at least.
Yeah.
But you're going to be on like a different level, because then you'll get that action and you'll see certain things that you'll like. So you won't come down completely. But I mean, just diving straight into it. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad.
Yeah.
And I think with the way that they ended the last episode, it didn't hit good.
Right.
Maybe it didn't hit. Maybe it's a step below, but that's, like you saying with the money thing. We got expectations and things
exactly
we got to meet.
And if you spot on, brother, spot on. And the thing that I don't want to do, is I don't want to pile on and make it seem like the show was trash, because I still have the show overall at a 7.5. Like, for me, WandaVision was a 6, and that, in my opinion, is being generous. And it is a 7.5 for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I see Sancho Mac saying that the hype is overrated. I want to challenge that a little bit, because I don't feel like, at least from our perspective, I can't speak for, anybody else, any other content creators, but the two of us been sitting here for the last 6 weeks tapering expectation. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We could have gone, we didn't speculate, even when it came to and we definitely going to touch on that here in a minute, but even when it came to the Power Broker, like, none of us had expectations of the Power Broker being some kind of a amazing reveal. We hoped that it wouldn't be what we thought it was going to be, which was exactly how it turned out. Mm-hmm. But we all kind of saw that coming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's not a thing where I feel like we hyped ourselves up to get disappointed by not getting what we were hyped to get. No, it just felt like they didn't really, like, the show just didn't really nail all of the elements that it was trying to nail. And I'll double down on that and say this. Specifically, the social commentary piece. And for a show that did, I think, a phenomenal job the first 5 episodes of really skirting that line between beating you over the head with a message and really being like subliminal with it, or almost like passive and not making it a focal point, they did the exact opposite, I felt like, in the finale. Mm-hmm. Because the action stops with about 15 minutes left in the episode. And then you get exposition and you get dialogue, which is cool, but it put a different tone on the finale for me. And this is coming from somebody who, to be totally honest, I loved the last 15 minutes. But when you go back and you look at it, it's like, okay, so we get the build up, but then kind of the cool down is this, and it's done in this way that it's like, we didn't need 15 minutes to push that message home in that way. That didn't necessarily have to be 15 minutes. And so it for whatever the choice was for them to do it that way, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the reason was, it affected the show in a way that didn't make it a bad show, but just it didn't allow it to really finish on as high of a note as I hoped it would.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I was hoping that they wouldn't do what kind of, like, they still did exactly what I thought they would do, and I hope they didn't do. Like, if you look at every piece of content we've gotten in this series, it's kind of been that same little formula. They kind of maybe lead you in just a little bit, 5 to 10 minutes, and then you get some action, and then, it's all back to dialogue, probably for the whole rest of that episode. And then you'll get an episode where maybe if you got a whole 10 minutes worth of action, well, shoot, probably not even that much. You probably got about 5 minutes worth of action completely. And even if it was broken up, it was like 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, and it just really wasn't action. It was just fast paced, to be completely honest. I would call it fast paced action.
Right.
because you get a quick little kick here, a swing there, somebody gets thrown there, and then they're running somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of them spend a lot of time running, and of course you would call that action because somebody's moving quickly, but no, not really. There was more action in the fact that I could say that I could use verbs to describe that scene than I could actually say that the verbs actually amounted to anything.
Right.
So when it just came down to it, that last episode, yeah, that Sam conversation was completely overdrawn. Old buddy didn't really have nothing to come back with. All he kept saying was, "You don't understand," down to the point where it was like they had to lean into the fact that he was saying he don't understand. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe I do, but it's like, why are we still stressing and saying this? You said the same thing 3 different ways. Well, you could have just came in, said your piece, and flew off, and that would have been way more impactful for them to actually have to think about it, and maybe not even give them lines. Like, don't even give them lines. He could have just came in straight, smooth, told them off, because in the end, the message is, somebody that young decided they wanted to go against somebody that powerful because they felt what they were doing was wrong. Okay, we got that. A life was lost inevitably because of that. Okay.
Right.
But like, you say that, you cuss them out, and when they try to say something, you say, you put them in their place, you got them wings out, you look glorious for a second, and you fly off. Done.
So
like, they could have paid other things off more.
No doubt. I wanna ask, and again, I really don't want to go here, but I gotta ask. I have to ask, and I'm gonna specifically holler at the two-way for this one, and AK Knight. Number one, AK Knight, appreciate you stopping through, homie. But I gotta ask you, what element of Falcon and Winter Soldier do you feel like was hyped up, and then were disappointed by that particular thing not coming true? Because that's what that's the thing that I want to push back on, is this idea that people are salty, and the reason that people don't like the show or are down on the show is because we hyped up some type of a big reveal or a cameo that didn't come true, and so now we're butthurt.
Right.
I will take that argument for WandaVision, right, because WandaVision, you could have that's a valid argument. But I feel like if you're using that to rationalize why some people are not as high on Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think that's just flat out lazy. I think I think you're not really listening or trying to listen to what people's actual beef with the show in general was. Right.
And I think when it also comes down to it, and we are sitting here and we're talking about the show, and we are mainly, talking about the things that we did not like about it. We're not sitting up here saying don't go watch it. We're not saying that we probably wouldn't recommend it for somebody to go view. None of those types of iterations have ever came out of either one of us. It's just simply to the fact that we can understand why that is out there, and it's for the reasons why we might dislike the show. But that doesn't mean, again, we're like, oh, you know what, cancel Marvel now because they had a couple bad shows. I'm honestly expecting these shows to just be coast level all the way up till at least after Hawkeye. I think every show that they're going to record after that point is going to be on point. And if it's not, then we still have this same kind of stigma, because we're not the only ones sitting up here talking about it in this kind of light. I've seen a lot of people who actually y'all don't even know exist, who probably only get 10 people who watch them, sitting there and being like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy this. So It's like all the way down to the low level medium, if that's how you want to look at it, all the way up to the high Hollywood platforms. There are elements of this show that were undesirable. It's just the facts. We still like it for the fact that they did carry out some of the other elements and handled them extremely well, to the point where we're saying that it saved it. A 7.5 is not bad.
Right.
Honestly.
That's what I'm saying.
7.5 is not bad at all for a complete rating. So just because we want to sit here and actually talk about the reasons why we didn't like something, I think that's mainly because the reasons we do like it are mostly unspoken. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we have to, at the same time, you got to handle that. You got to handle that side of it.
Well, let's do this.
It's not just the part of being on it. It's just really the part of making sure we have that conversation.
So let's do this. For the sake of those who are saying that we are being overly negative. let's talk about some of the things we did, like including the finale.
Right.
Let's go ahead and do that. So for starters, I thought the suit was dope as hell. I thought the only thing that upset me was I wish that there were more scenes in daylight where you could have got a better view of the suit, because I feel like the suit was awesome. And it was worth building up the hype to get the reveal at the end, because I thought that was incredible. And all of the scenes with Sam in the suit and the action scenes, I think with Sam in particular, were dope. Like I didn't have a huge problem. Now again, some of that stuff was kind of edited weird for me. But again, the thing that we have to remember, and I saw somebody make this point, and they were spot on in the two-way, is that we can't compare the television or the streaming aspect action to a movie level action. It's not going to be the same. No matter how much money Disney Plus has, no matter how much pull White Suge has, they're never going to have the action in those shows on par with the action you get in a cinematic experience, period.
Right.
That from a just a business standpoint, that don't make sense. So that's not an expectation of mine, was for it to be on the level of the movies, but, or at least not after really sitting back and looking at it after we got WandaVision. Let me just be clear about that. Other things that I liked in the show, I think, again, while I did come in saying that the social commentary aspect at the end was a little bit of overkill because of repetitiveness, I still felt like that was even spot on. And I think that there's, I'll go even further into that, but still keep it surface level though, by saying this. I think that a lot of people who didn't, or who are saying that the plot doesn't make sense because of what message Sam was trying to push, not really understanding what the point was of what Sam was trying to say and who that message was really meant for. And again, I don't want to get into that piece of it because, I just don't want to do that right now, but I'll say this. That message and that whole setup was specifically designed by the writer to convey 2 points, in my opinion, and both of those points were spot on in terms of him being able to, through his writing, articulate his point of view. Now, is that the point of view of every person in America? Absolutely not. But that was his take and his way of representing his feelings through those scenes. And I felt like, as they have done consistently throughout this show, they did a hell of a job of putting that into perspective in a way that is still engaging and entertaining from a content perspective. My only beef with it was that it was like redundant after a couple of minutes. But that Isaiah Bradley scene at the end, that conversation with Sam, him going to the museum, that was powerful and that was incredible.
Yeah,
and I love the fact that they put that in. I love the fact that they gave that resolution and that they showed, because I think that part of Sam's journey is more important than anything else. Because if you, as a black man, take up that shield, knowing the implications of that, then you have to make sure that part of your responsibility is to at least shed light on some of the wrongs that have been, put against the people you represent now. Everybody you represent. And that was the point of the scene where he had the debate with the senator, and the point of them showing that he made sure to get that memorial for Isaiah Bradley, because that is showing that Sam has embraced his role as Captain America and is representing America, not just Black America. And so that part was spot on. I just felt like it kind of went on a little bit longer. And because I'm watching an MCU show, I wanted it to get back to the MCU aspect of it before we ended up wrapping it up. And they really focused on that, I think, to a detriment in terms of the length of how long and the fact that was right at the end of the show.
Well, see, And like to that attribute, I think they probably put so much more into that scene because I feel like them killing Carly or taking out at least her for the slacks, but like they killed all of them. They blew up
Right.
the vehicle, took her out. I think that might have kind of been a nod to the fact that it's like, yeah, we know what it was with these character elements here, and you don't got to worry about them
Right.
again. You know what I'm saying? Not in that respect. Maybe they'll come back in a different form, and that's usually what that means when they kind of outright like destroy something to that level. It usually means that it's going to evolve, or it turns into somebody behind the scenes doing something else with that, and it kind of makes it better. So that's what I kind of feel like they went with that. So instead of them trying to lean into whatever it was, the plot point that they had to take out because of the virus plot and all that stuff, I think they just decided to put it, at least I could say that they decided to put that into the conversation that Sam was having instead of maybe trying to put it somewhere else where it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say that at least.
No doubt. And the thing about it, because I saw this in the two-way also, and I want to touch on this. Yeah, the homie Josh was hard on like talking about Dark Avengers and the Thunderbolts and all of that implication. But let me just ask you, I don't see Josh on this panel though. Like that's not us. We didn't go hard on that. We were actually providing the counterbalance to that because in our mind, we were like, after getting WandaVision, you have to taper expectation. And we decided that we weren't going to go hard on those implications because we don't know for a fact that any of that is going to happen. And we don't want that to be a part of, our evaluation of the show. So again, and again, Josh having, or being, speculating on that, that's what we here for. We want to know, or we want to be able to speculate and kind of give our take on where we think or where we hope things will go. But what I see happening now is that apparently you can't speculate unless you're going to like the show regardless. Because if you don't like the show, then immediately people are going to say you don't like the show because you speculated. And I think that is as misplaced of a theory as some of the elements that like they were bringing to light in Falcon and the Winter Soldier itself. Like, this is exactly what Sam's speech was focused on at the end. It's just like, no, you have to look at it from the other perspective in some cases. Just like us sitting up here, talking about the show and how we felt about the show, we acknowledge the fact that there are people that thought the show was excellent. And I'm not knocking anybody that says that because that's the whole point of entertainment. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to like it. Some people are going to think it's trash.
Right.
Some people won't be interested whatsoever.
I'll put it this way. If you think that Marvel Studios, Cinematic, however you look at it, Disney themselves ain't looking at this with a harder microscope than we are right now, y'all are out of y'all mind.
Facts.
We probably up here being light as hell. Could possibly be light as hell. We don't know what the hell that they're looking at when it comes to that business standpoint.
Right.
We just giving out a nice, and actually, I think very fair take. I'm gonna go watch the whole thing
again,
from start to finish.
Exactly.
Again.
Facts.
And still have my opinion about it after I watch it, whether it be good, bad, resonate with you or not. That's what it is going to be. And I'm going to watch Loki, and then I'm going to watch Hawkeye, and then I'm going to watch Moon Knight. Whether we cover it here or not is here nor there. But I'm still going to be in the MCU regardless. I'm still going to have my opinion on where I think maybe it could have went. I saw somebody in the two-way say this too. Sometimes some of the stuff that Josh says is better than what you actually get content-wise. And for me, I don't know about a lot of y'all Nerdvengers, but that was kind of the biggest reason why I even got into this community. It was because some of the implications from what we were to be able to extract from it, whether it was real or not, it's like I can have this moment to where I can be like, I would love for that to happen, blah, blah, blah,
right,
and geek out and nerd out. That's what being in the nerd community is. It's not the fact that because we say we don't like something and it doesn't resonate with you, that you get to try to come back at us with some kind of negativity as well. That means that you're feeding into it and you're taking it the wrong way. If anything, you could be like, yeah, I see your point, and then you give your take. and then you agree to disagree, and then you just move the hell on. I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Preach, homie.
We love these shows regardless. If I
Right.
don't like eating a Twix and all of a sudden I watch something and it's a Twix, I'm going to give it to you, the people. Be like, I didn't enjoy this, but you had a whole rest of this. That is for you.
Right.
And I don't have to dislike it because you like the way that tasted.
But and here's the crazy thing too, is like they come to kind of back your point. So then we get the announcement that they're doing a Captain America 4, and that Malcolm Spellman's going to be one of the writer-directors. I'm all for that shit. Like, I want it. I can't wait. Because what I think Captain America will shine better on a cinematic standpoint than it would in like this smaller, episodic content form, because then you get every element of this show, plus you get it dialed up to the MCU movie level. And that's the thing that I think a lot of us, if we want to really talk about expectations and we want to talk about recalibrating expectations, the one thing, and I will admit this for myself 1000%, the one thing that Falcon and Winter Soldier has proved to me yet again is that there is clearly going to be a very, very noticeable difference between MCU movies and MCU streaming content. And that is not a bad thing at all. If anything, having more options is even better, because all that does is grow the fan base. And if you grow the fan base, that means we all win because we got content. So I'm here for it. I want to see a movie. I'll be in line to go see that straight up, because there are elements of the show that I loved and I want to see translate to the silver screen. So it's not that I'm sitting here going, nah, I ain't watching it, it was trash. No, I was disappointed with the finale in some ways, but the finale still landed at a 7.5. Like, that ain't bad. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion of it. If you have it at a 10, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like there are certain things about the show that I didn't feel like, for my own personal taste, didn't hit me the way that I wanted them to end up hitting me. You know what I'm saying? But
so
go ahead, homie.
I got a question. So comparing this to what we've been doing, comparing this to something like back in when it first started, the Snyder Cut. If we compare this show, which we obviously shouldn't because it's a damn TV show, but we're gonna do it anyway. So strap in, people. You compare this to Snyder Cut, then you take out the Snyder Cut and water that back down to the Whedon Cut. I'm pretty sure we could all be like, yeah, this is way better than what we got. And I'm pretty sure, fanboy dreaming or not, a lot of us kind of looked at the two Snyder Cut, Whedon Cut, and then versus what we got that Zack Snyder wanted us to have versus what we got from what I guess you could say WB wanted us to get. A lot of us probably fanboy dreamed that, and it kind of most definitely came true. I'm pretty sure on that. So my whole point of even saying that is because I see some people, they always want to come back to that, other people think that they can like write better than a company does. Who says that somebody in the street can't? I know people out here who can ball better than Michael Jordan, not getting paid for it. I'm pretty sure I can go out here and beat somebody who can write something way better than a studio does. But that's not what the studio is always looking at. It's not always the prime writing that they want to try to put out. Everything is, okay, we have to lean into it this way because we know we can get the people from this demographic. We're going to lean into it this way because I know we can get the people from this demographic. This is the reason why people get chosen to be directors, Scott Derrickson, and then all of a sudden now it's Sam Raimi. This is the reason why it's not exactly about the writing being better. It's about if it's on brand for what they're trying to actually put out there for people to get back from the community as a whole, from their community as a whole. So sometimes what they put out there as far as writing goes, we might look at that and be like, but for them, they're like, you know what? Nope, that's right on brand because maybe they wanted us to feel that way. Maybe they wanted to try to pull attention from other directions in the first place. So they're not even worried about, what that what that demographic thinks. They're probably like, nah, that's okay. We expected people from the age range of 30 to 60 to not like these shows because we're actually trying to get the people from 25 and lower to start watching our shows. We'll get them back when we pop out this movie, and then we can finally, get from 0 to 70. But right now, this product right here, we want this group. So it might resonate with you completely because this might be your introduction to it. This might be something that is actually close to home for you. So you're like, oh no, that was perfect for me because maybe what he said, maybe him putting that emphasis on it, or maybe I keep saying him because as if I'm speaking about the speech, but I'm talking about anything in any of this content. Anything that's said like that in these contents is just really brought out, like I said, for demographics. So just because you might not have the same opinion as somebody, you got to kind of look at that as a facet as well. It's like, okay, so why did you extract something different out of it than I did? I know this, I know this, I know this, I know that. And then that person you're just talking to might know 10 to 15 properties more than you do. And you're like, okay, so they took it from here and changed it from here. So you just like it because of blah, 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 blah. Their reasons could be completely different than yours. And some people just aren't good at words. And they're not able to actually be like, yeah, this is the reasons why. And it might be a little frustrating at the same time. But you guys got to remember to kind of keep an open mind about almost anything that you consume, period.
Right.
So, like I said, the show as a whole, I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing again. I'm pretty sure that I won't look at it any different. It's probably going to end on the 7.5 for me. And mostly for me, it's not even because of some of the elements that we've even touched on here today. I wouldn't give it more because I don't really like the fact that they switched up with the Flag Smashers. It probably would have been better to me if they had one person and him just have like a little mini army or something that he controls and he's the MacGuffin or she's the MacGuffin. I would have liked that better than them trying to make it this kind of GRC centric thing. I would have liked it to been more of a villainy in a different kind of way because of what the Flag Smashers in the comics were standing for.
Right.
Certain things when it comes to U.S. Agent, I see, and it also depends on what iterations that they want to draw from to create that character. I'm not completely satisfied with it, but again, this is just the beginning. It's always kind of hard to get season ones of anything off the ground. And I'm actually kind of glad that there are gripes about season ones of these things because if it came out and it was completely perfect, we had nothing bad to say about it. That's usually indicative of season 2 being not as good because we got so much great content out of the first piece. That's usually when it starts to kind of decline. Sometimes it can meet it on the level. Sometimes it's better because they can give you more. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for from like The Witcher 2.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that like that's better because it was able to give me more. There were certain elements of that, like how it went back and forth and back and forth. It was a little hard to follow, especially if you didn't have any idea about The Witcher at all. Which for me, I was kind of on the beginning of that. So this is kind of the same thing here. Like some people are like, oh, this is new, and they can completely follow it and be like, okay, that's great. But this is me like, okay, now they're pulling out this character and that character, and I love this character, but they're doing this differently now. Why? Oh, you know what I'm saying? It's change. Change is always kind of up and down for a lot of people in a lot of different aspects. So keep what you're thinking. I enjoy seeing people in here saying, no, I like this part. I love this part. This part resonated. That's what you're supposed to extract. If you came in this conversation, you was complaining about something that had absolutely nothing to do with what we talking about, then I know you ain't listening and you ain't watching. So it's great that some of these elements that we're pulling out and we're saying maybe we didn't like because it ran too long. It's not us saying we didn't like it because of what he was saying or because of what they put the action part to be or because of, like I'm saying, they changed the Flag Smashers. For y'all probably like, oh, this is perfect. It served the story. They did this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but this dude also did so much more in the comics that it changes this here, which leads to this there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm looking at it from a complete fanboy standpoint. I really don't like looking at a lot of these shows politically, even if they have those elements, because there is a lot of divisiveness that could come out of that because of people's orientations and what types of things that they like or what types of things they follow because of what things represent. And I find that I like this show because they were able to actually put these elements in here and not make you have to be far left, far right, completely in the middle. It was just a story. Ultimately, I'm not going to go and vote a particular way now. I'm not pulling anything out, and I'm actually liking the fact that I'm not extracting anything out of there that has like a secret society type message in it completely. Sometimes, it's an element, but it's not something that's leaned into. There are certain properties out there that do that. So there's great elements about the show, period.
Right.
But I feel the content, yes, whether it was affected by the pandy or not, could have been better in ways, and that's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Exactly. And to me, it's like, again, I don't want people thinking, I don't want the thought to be, oh well, y'all are just mad because the show didn't get written the way you wanted it to be written. Nah, it's not anything like that. You know what I'm saying? It's just any type of content that you absorb, when you are evaluating whether or not you like it or how much you like it, you go back and you say, okay, well, what things did I like? What things did I not like? Now, some people who have more of a cinematic eye will look at things like pacing, look at things like exposition, how much plot resolution was there, how, stuff like that. They're looking at scene composition, directing choices, lighting effects, all that kind of stuff. But then you have some people that are really surface level that are just like, you know what? Did I enjoy the ride? Were there parts of the ride that I felt like I didn't enjoy that I wish had been done a little bit different? And that's the way that they evaluate. And both of those ways are correct. There's no wrong way to enjoy or critique a piece of content, because ultimately that content is for you to enjoy and to digest however you do so. Now, to the point about writing, I saw this and I gotta say this. Gotta say it. Do we really think that the MCU's problem is that they have writers who don't know the comics?
Right.
Are we seriously gonna say that that's the problem with the MCU? When Kevin Feige is praised almost like constantly for understanding the comics and for being able to take the true essence of those comic book stories and bring them to live action. All of a sudden now, like, Feige pivoted and decided, nah, we ain't gonna worry about the comic accuracy of our stories anymore. Nah, man, that ain't it. And this is the thing, right, again, that we have to realize, and the thing that we don't talk about because it's kind of a touchy thing to talk about, but this is business. And some of these decisions that get made with how a story is written are business oriented. They don't necessarily have to do with just totally keeping the story as real as they can. Like, they're trying to, Kevin Feige's got bosses. And if Kevin Feige's bosses tell him, you can't go this deep into the plot, or you can't borrow these elements, then that's just what it is. Now, look, I get it. If Jack Schaefer says she's never heard of Mephisto, okay, that's one example. But, like, seriously, this is not, if you think, or I will say it this way, I don't believe that the issue going on in terms of the accuracy of these stories to the comic book perspective is because Marvel is totally ignorant of collectively of what these comic book runs are. Nah, man. Nah, it's not. It's deeper than that. To me, it's deeper than that. And there's some things that have come to light that basically make that obvious. If you have certain, or if you watch and follow certain comic book store threads and news stories and interviews, there may be something to that, but I think it's a lot deeper than them just being ignorant. You know what I'm saying? And so again, because that's not a huge thing right now, it's not something that, we want to get into super deep because it's, it's too much of going down the rabbit hole and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But
I think.
go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to close it and say, at the end of the day, with these shows, regardless of what we get, and I'm gonna keep hammering this point. Even the Infinity Saga in the MCU was a watered down version of the stories that they gave us within that saga. The Civil War plot was not the Civil War angle from the comics. The Infinity Gauntlet plot was not the Infinity Gauntlet plot from the comics. The Age of Ultron was not accurate completely to how it went down in the comics. So what that tells you right there is that these stories are not going to be one-to-one adaptations of what happened in the comics, and that there are going to be some liberties that are taken. And it seems like the track record of Marvel is that they are making these more surface levels so that they're more digestible for normies. And that's the piece that I think we have. If there's any credibility that I'll give to people who are saying expectations need to be measured or recalibrated, I would say from that aspect, we have to understand that these stories just are not going to get as deep or be one-to-one adaptations from what we know from the comics. It's just not going to be that way. It doesn't seem like. Now, when Loki drops, maybe Loki is what everybody's been waiting for, because Loki is going to be something that kind of opens up what's actually going on in the MCU currently in terms of giving us implications on where things are headed. These two shows, I don't think were designed to do much of that, but rather to just kind of establish where these characters are in their arcs.
Right.
And that's the thing that I think we are trying to reconcile as fans, is how we feel about character development centric content.
Right.
Because that's what WandaVision was. That's what Falcon and Winter Soldier was. Those were more character-driven pieces of content where they focused on character development. They focused on individual journeys as opposed to some large looming threat that ties into a larger story. And so if that's the case, then cool, we know that. And going forward, you know what to expect. But to say that, oh, this is terrible because they do that, or that's the decision they make, nah, nobody up here is saying that. I'm just saying that for a multitude of reasons, I felt like the show could have been a 9, but because of the way that certain decisions were made, I feel like it was a 7.5. It's just me, man. It's just me.
Right. And honestly, like, I think the biggest issue is we haven't had a Marvel movie either.
Facts.
And what going on over a year, and what we got to remember what the original plan was. This is not the original plan. The original plan was we were supposed to get Falcon and Winter Soldier first. We were supposed to get WandaVision leading into Doctor Strange. They had a whole different outline, and now we're seeing a completely different timeline in ways because things were just the way that they were last year.
Right.
So again, that's something you can't take with a grain of salt. Taking something with a grain of salt is like we're doing with this fanboy stuff. But I think because we haven't had a comparison to see how they have worked their movies, or how they're going to work their movies after Infinity and Endgame, and now we're just getting the TV shows. We're still waiting to see Black Widow. We don't know what the hell's going on with people who actually affect this story. We have no idea what really is going on with General Ross. Maybe they will say something about power brokers in some kind of way during the Black Widow movie. Like, I heard that there were supposed to be certain elements of that movie that played into what's going on in Falcon and Winter Soldier, even though it's a precursor. And I guess that's because of the super soldier serum stuff. So there's a certain info that we were supposed to get that we just don't have yet, which kind of changes the perspective that Marvel originally gave us. Like, we were able to go back completely and look at the Easter eggs and how they pertain to certain movies after so much time. And it's kind of like at this part in the phase, we're starting over. So we don't have, other than the obviously, again, unspoken things that make us interested in these characters, we don't know where they're going and how things are shaping up yet. So again, there's always that potential that for right now, the show can be a 7.5, and then all of a sudden we boost that up to like a 9.5 because it's something that they do in Captain America 4 that reads right back into this, and we're like, blah blah blah, or maybe we didn't notice that, but it's just whenever they make it a thing, to be completely honest.
Now I'll say,
and they can always pull something subtle to do that.
No doubt. I'll just say for my take, I don't think that'll be the case for me with Falcon. With WandaVision, maybe, but I don't think there's anything retroactively that you could tell me about Falcon that would make me change where I stand with where I have the show at a 7.5. And that's because, again, the things that I don't want to say didn't like, but the things that I felt like could have been done a little bit better in Falcon have nothing to do with plot implication. Like,
right.
And this is the last, like, I want to touch on this point, and then we can move into conversation and libation. The power broker reveal. We said this on After Dark, and I had been telling the homie this. As much as we hated to say it, if you didn't think Sharon was going to be the power broker, then you were missing, you were not reading into the clues that they had been giving us since WandaVision about how these reveals are going to go. We did this exact same thing with Agatha and the Mephisto implications and the whole nine. We were expecting with WandaVision to get some kind of a reveal that it was a whole bigger plot going on and that it was so much, other stuff that could be going on. And it was like, oh no, it can't be that simple. It's got to be deeper than just Agatha. And then episode 7 comes around and it was Agatha all along. And, we, including myself, was a little bit salty over that. And it was like, oh, well then really that's it. The show ain't gonna get any deeper than that. Like I was expecting it to get deeper. Now that was the first MCU, piece of content that we got from a streaming service. So here we are with the second one. And we're going along and we're watching the show and we're watching how this gets set up. And it's clear as day that unless it's going to be somebody that they just going to totally bring out of nowhere, it was going to have to be someone that we had already seen in the show. The longer that reveal got pushed back, the more the more obvious it was that whoever the power broker was going to be, it was going to be somebody that had already been seen or introduced in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It wasn't going to be somebody that we hadn't seen. Right. It wasn't going to be some mysterious character. It was going to be somebody we already knew. And once the Dora Milaje picked up the homie Zemo, that pretty much took him off the plate. The board. Off the board. There you go. Thank you. That took him off the board. And unless it was going to be something crazy where it was some other obscure character, Sharon made the most sense from the story standpoint. Now, we as fans might say that's lame or that's weak or I would have had it be somebody else. I don't even have a problem with the fact that Sharon was the power broker at all. Again, my thing with that was execution because, and follow me on this because I want to give you something and I want to get some emojis in the chat. Give me some fire emojis if you feel me on this. Say you take that power broker reveal and you take the John Walker U.S. agent reveal, right? Let's make both of those post-credit scenes. And let's shorten up the John Walker scene to where it's literally him looking at himself in the mirror the same way that he was in the first episode, right? Or in the second episode when they revealed him. And you hear Val basically gassing him up, telling him, he's going to be his U.S. agent, yada, 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 okay? And let's have her give him a shield, the U.S. agent shield in that post-credit scene. And he asked her where she got it from. Tie that in with Sharon's post-credit scene and her making a comment about having access to new weapons and equipment and tech and all of that. So then you'd have an implication, even if it wasn't true, you'd have an implication that the power broker was working with Val and that all would strengthen that whole dynamic. And you would be like, okay, so essentially the power broker is exactly that. She is brokering power, tilting the scales for whatever she sees fit so that she can make whatever type of manipulation she wants to make. And that would be something that could be paid off later on in the movie, later on in another season, or however you want to handle it. But by doing that small change, all that does is that makes the payoff even better. And that gives you something to want to stick around to see. It's not changing it. I don't need anybody else to be, I don't need the power broker to be anybody else different. I don't need for, John Walker to automatically come out and them drop the word Thunderbolt or Dark Avenger or anything like that. All you need is for it to make sense so that like there's a reason to want to continue going with that thread. What they did with Sharon as the power broker wasn't lame. It was the execution was lame. Because it's like, well, wait a minute. We don't even understand by the time that's done what like her role and what her end game is, no pun intended, with being the power, like with her playing both sides against the middle. Because clearly that's what she's doing.
Okay. My problem with that, even with that reveal at the very end, is the fact that, okay, so she just finished getting reinstated, blah, 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 blah. The way that they even cut the scene into her being on the phone just looked awkward. It looked like something that I would shoot in the backyard with little experience and be like, okay, action. And then she lifted the phone up and started walking away and talking. And then besides that point, she's outside the building with military personnel, like all types of important people are just chilling outside of the courthouse or wherever the hell she's at. And she's just walking away. Yeah, we got access to blah, 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 blah. Like, you think that that's really like a safe point for you to be doing that? Maybe I'm overcritical, and I know I'm very overcritical. I will pull out the smallest thing and be like, that makes zero sense for this whole plot. It's ruined. I will do that on purpose because it's funny. But at the same point, it's like, why still? What makes you think that that's safe when you are on American soil and you have enemies, period, that you think is cool for you to just pull out your phone? Maybe. Maybe she's got connects or whatever. I just still, again, that execution on that, I felt like maybe she should have gotten in the car, pulled the phone up, drove away. Maybe she could have said that to the assistant chick. Like, she's getting driven around by this assistant chick who gets no mention, no name. She even has speaking lines. And if you think about it in movies or whatever, people who got speaking lines typically have some kind of importance, or they help push the story forward. So you would kind of maybe expect to see them again in some kind of capacity. She's getting driven around by this particular person that you would have to believe is someone, of course, that's there to help her. And or that could be who she's on the phone with. That's supposed to be all ambiguous, but still, you could have had her in the safety of the car, driving off, talking about such and such, and then maybe give us another little Easter egg or something in the background. Execution. Am I mad that it didn't completely go that way? No. But I do think that was part of the edits, and I just don't think that it was rough. It was very rough. And again, if we're going to hold these companies to a certain kind of standard, there are certain elements that I don't expect to be that rough.
Right.
I don't care what the hell is going on, pandy or no pandy. Like, that's something I expected professionalism on. So maybe I'm critical in that kind of way. I'm not even really complaining that it's her, but visually for me, give me something better than that.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, the things that we're talking about here, though, is nothing that derailed the show in any aspect. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're sitting here talking about and debating the way or the choices they made and how they wrapped up the show. It's not like we're going back and picking through every single episode and saying it sucked because of this or because of that. Because again, every episode for me was on the level of a 7.5 to 8. The episode 5, in my opinion, was a 9. I gave it a 9 because I felt like it set up a finale that was gonna be, where they gave themselves time to pay off the finale itself and to really honor and lean into resolving that whole Flag Smashers plot, which it didn't end on as high of a note as I would have liked it to. But again, I still give the whole season a 7.5. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything that we talked about, it's a 7.5 for me, which is damn good, which is rewatchable, which is, I'm not disappointed in what happened with the show. Now, what I think happens, and we'll start rolling into the conversation and libation on this point, but what I think happens, and what we have to remember, Nerdvengers and Broke Vengers alike, is that the views and opinions that are expressed on the morning stream, on Debate 8, or After Dark, or Darren's Danger Room are respective and reflective of those persons, not the entire Den of Nerds conglomerate at large. So if Josh has an opinion about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we may agree on certain aspects, but that doesn't mean that my overall opinion of the show is in line with Josh's or with Lavis or with Adam or with Fanjexture. Like, we all have our own individual opinions, and sometimes we agree on certain aspects, but ultimately we all land where we land. Now, fortunately for me, the homie right here and I are usually on the same damn page.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of times where we will watch a stream and see the homie Josh's reaction and go, I don't think I'd go that hard. Like, I don't think it was that bad. But Josh has valid points when he critiques. And Josh knows what he's talking about when he critiques. So, again, I respect his opinion even when I disagree with it. And that's anybody's opinion. I have no problem with somebody who thinks my take is crazy, because I don't expect everybody to agree with what I have to say. But what we as fans have to remember is that we all enjoy content for different reasons. And so if the content doesn't hit on those enjoyment parameters for you, then it's going to lead to a somewhat disappointing experience. But that doesn't mean that your somewhat disappointing experience has to affect somebody who had a phenomenal experience. So for those who had a great ride with Falcon and thought the show was a 9 or 10, hit us up. Come to the Discord, which if you ain't a part of the Discord, what the hell are you doing with your life? Just saying. But come holler at us on the Discord and let us know what it was you liked. Come tell me the points, the parts of my argument you think are crazy. I'll debate it with you, and then we can walk away and be cool. Like, that's what this is all about, though.
Right.
This is that's
the fun part.
This is what it's all about.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
being able to come together and be able to be like-minded in certain ways, and if not, agree about it. Just being adults. This is the thing about being adults. It's not always because, I get to do whatever I want. Because if you think that of life, yeah, I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Now,
yes,
into this conversation and libation, and while we are at it, if you don't mind, in the two-way, I want to see, as we go through these super chats, and again, we appreciate each and every one of them.
Yes, sir.
I want you to hit me with either Mortal Kombat and your score, or Invincible and your score. Because I want to know, after we had this epic weekend with all of this incredible content, where were you sitting after watching Mortal Kombat and after watching Invincible? And if you want to give me the rating on Falcon and Winter Soldier, cool with that too. But just overall, with those shows in those shows specifically, where were you? Let us know in the two-way, and we're gonna get into these super chats, man.
Yes, sir. So top billing for me, I got Mike Hawes at $5. Thank you, sir. I said the After Dark Lounge, Sunday school sessions, nerding out with the best live community on YouTube. NERDVENGERS and BrokeVengers assemble and represent. Yes, sir. Most definitely.
That's what's up.
We appreciate hearing that. Yes, glad that you feel and believe that we are the best. We strive towards that just for you, the people.
Oh, yeah.
The next we got John Van Gelderen Jr. I feel like as far as I'm going to take that with the $5. All I got from him saying is, take my money. Well, we appreciate it.
We appreciate you, man.
Most definitely do. Next, I got Flatbush Zombie 47. Hey, Flatbush represent. That's what's up. With the $9.99, said Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision and Falcon, both affected by Rona. The real tests will be Moon Knight and She-Hulk. Hopefully they actually have good cameos like the Punisher, Blade for Moon Knight, and Daredevil for She-Hulk. So that's kind of my point. The things that are unaffected that they had to change, that they would most likely put into their properties, at that point, I will completely be I will probably be critical like a lot of people actually really are, because it's like no excuse. But I think Moon Knight, She-Hulk's going to be dope. I actually hear that they may actually put Wilson Fisk somewhere in between those two shows, between Moon Knight and She-Hulk.
Yeah.
And actually, I think I'm hearing Wilson Fisk actually might be as soon as Hawkeye. And then he'll just trickle on through there as a character for most of these people. Because of course She-Hulk, she's a lawyer, so I would expect something to come out of it, even if it's just a name drop for Kingpin. I think some of these people are just going to be, and that would be completely dope, and that would make these shows. I think that's what, to me, some of these shows are missing. That's MCU-esque. Is these shows don't really have too much connectivity yet. But it would be dope if by the time we got to Hawkeye, we did get a Wilson Fisk character, and then we get to Moon Knight and realize that things that Wilson Fisk was doing in Hawkeye is affecting things that are going on in Moon Knight, and maybe he cameos in that. And then by the time we get to She-Hulk, we see that Kingpin's influence is even stretched out to that, and now She-Hulk is handling people that were underneath the Kingpin. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of connectivity. When we can start getting that, I feel like that'll be a good piece of the aesthetics that we're kind of looking for. So I'm just sitting back and chilling and waiting for all that stuff to be able to be implemented before I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell they're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I feel like. The next we got Yeezy Fosheezy with the 279. Yes, it ain't easy being Fosheezy. Said Luke Mando delivered on speculation and was glorious. Yes, most definitely was. I mean, you the resident Star Wars up here. You got, as long as the homie agrees, and I agree.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, it was. Come on, man. Like
we got right.
Why do we have to?
I gotta ask for the Alfax.
Hey, man,
I need the Alfax on that. You got Carfax. I need Alfax.
You can stamp it with the OG Triple OG certification. My man is speaking facts.
Sauce on it.
Yes, because if you ain't got that sauce, then that's your loss.
Then we got Randy Burnside with the $5 holla. Thank you, sir. So how do y'all feel about critics saying Cap's speech at the end wasn't needed or wasn't effective or was monotone? I would say for me, critics are critics. Critics say that certain shows are 90% that are actually 50%. There are shows out there they say are 25% that are actually, to me, closer to 90%. Critics are critics. I don't feel personally that it wasn't needed. I feel like it was something that did need to be addressed. If it was effective or not, that just really atones to that person's perspective on what was being said. And it being monotone, I don't believe so, because Anthony Mackie's acting on that, to me, was spot on.
Yeah.
But for his character, for what it needed to be, I don't feel it was monotone at all. But, if those critics feel like it was any of those things, maybe that just says some things about those critics. What do you think?
I agree with you, man. I think that it definitely wasn't monotone. I think it was a little bit redundant at points. So I think you lose some of the efficacy when you are repeating the same message after the message has kind of been received. That's the only critique I had about it. The one thing I'll say about critics and people who didn't necessarily like that, I totally understand that. I thought, to be honest, that was going to be something that you would hear about this show in its entirety, that there was definitely going to be some people with the sentiment that element or that subject matter didn't have any place in the show or didn't really hit with them for the purposes of entertaining them for the show purposes. And I totally respect that. I'm not one of these people that feel like, art has to be entirely representative of real life. However, I do appreciate when relevant topics are introduced into entertainment in an entertaining way. And that was one of the things that I was really worried about when it came to Falcon and Winter Soldier, even before episode 1. And looking back on it now, I can honestly say that for my taste, they did a phenomenal job of interweaving that commentary and that point of view into the show without letting that dominate the show itself.
Exactly.
So
I agree.
Yeah, I respect the critics that felt differently, but for me, I had zero issues with that aspect. And the only issue I had with the speech was that it ran on a little bit too long for my taste.
Right. And I'll take it a little step further. I would like to say I'd like for us to be able to probably come back and look at this property in the next few years and be like, damn, what was we going through? because we're in a better place. That's
Exactly.
what I would like to come out
Facts.
of this. That would be dope. But we shall see. We got John Hicks with the $49.99. Very generous, sir. Thank you very much. He said, faith in Feige. Take my money, because he needs Nerdcoin to gamble.
Hey, man, you know what it is, man. And why should we trust?
Yes, most definitely. We got Travis Adams came through with the $5. Said the editing was booty cheeks when Sam first came in the suit. That 1 second later he was kneeling down checking on someone. It was weird. Yeah, like if you're a Nerdvenger and you caught the watch party and you saw again the homie Josh kind of flipping out a little bit and he was going through how things were edited, like you got to think about it from a couple different standpoints. Like how I do. Josh and I, the thing we have in common is like he actually got to go to film school. I wanted to go to film school.
Yeah.
So, but the what I'm starting to see when it comes to Josh and I is we really don't have much of a different taste when it comes to how the property is shot on screen. We both look at this same exact kind of things, and like his gripes, yes, I went back and looked at those two a couple times during the stream and then after a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I could totally see where it was just rough. It was really rough. Like the way that they cut some of the action in that between Sam and Baltrog was awkward. It's not like horrible, but like Al knows we were watching that Mortal Kombat the Mortal Kombat YouTube series, and it was just so low budget that like every little swing. Oh, and that fake Moon Knight trailer.
Yes,
that's another thing we were watching. I couldn't even get through it because like every little like punch and swing of anything, they kept cutting it to make it look like that's what the whole thing was.
Right.
And it's like, you don't do that, man. If you ain't got the props to make that look believable in
please don't try it
shot, then don't do it, man. If you ain't got the skills, no, man, practice up a little bit. I got things that I want to record and do on that kind of level that I'm not doing. I'm not putting that kind of, no. You got to hold yourself to a standard. Anyway, but yeah, it was weird. So we got Normies to Nerds, the homie Kendall. Make sure you check out that show there. My man be doing it up. And I think Josh was on it this past show that he had, right?
Oh, yeah, he was.
Last Thursday?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, most definitely. But he came through with the $4.99. He said, damn, got a super chat just to cover my gambling addiction. Also, Falcon and Winter Soldier won't be for the wokes in my opinion. The real wokes would hate on a black cap. Invincible, 10. I can see what you mean by the real wokes would hate on a black cap, but I think at the same time there's levels to it, and there's just certain aspects and perspectives that people pay attention to.
Yeah.
Even when you're woke. Not everybody who's woke is on the same level, and some people, they may say they're woke, but you got to really look at what being woke honestly really means. And it's not just being able to identify certain things that they put in as an agenda. It's also how you act when you recognize that. It's also how you execute when you see it being brought towards you. It's not just, oh, they got a black Captain America. Oh, they're trying to appeal to black people. Blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not really honestly being woke. That's not what woke is. It's like, okay, they're making an attempt that they made a black Captain America because they want to maybe try to change the perspective of Americans for black people, because now they recognize that we're being recognized. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. Again, that it's not something that we asked for and we're like, oh my God, we need to have that. But it is something, again, I would like to see that now we don't look at that as an accomplishment in the future. That it just is.
That is just
it just is.
Exactly.
That's not something that you need to super chat and say that's like, hey, we got Sam Wilson, we got a new Captain America, period. When we get on that level to where we can just start saying that, then we're getting somewhere.
Exactly.
So
couldn't have said it better.
I would totally
myself.
Like to see that.
Then we got one more, looks like from Just Fernie, $4.99, says, and I love this question, out of Invincible, Mortal Kombat, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who won the night?
I'm pretty sure I know this answer.
Invincible.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Won hands down.
Hands
down. I had to rank them, though, here's where it gets fun. I would go Invincible. You ready for this, people? You ready to get triggered? You ready to get triggered? Invincible, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then Mortal Kombat. Because
I have to agree with that, but for different reasons, though.
Let me tell you, I specifically stayed away from MK's talk tonight or today because I want to give people a chance to watch it. And also, I already knew that we were going to be on the slightly negative slant with Falcon. And if I started talking about MK on this stream, we might have lost some subs. Because, boy, do I got some thoughts. I'm going to save them for after dark this Thursday. You not going to want to miss my critique of MK. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Oh, yeah. And Enrique Robles came through with $1.99.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. He said the Isaiah Bradley scenes made me cry. Happy for him.
Facts.
Hey, I ain't gonna
Facts.
I got a little foggy.
Yes, 100%. Man, let me tell you something. If you didn't get strong granddad vibes from Isaiah Bradley, like, I don't know. But even beyond that, man, just Carl Lumley, period. Like, any role he brings to the table, he brings it. And like, just has
definitely.
He has that voice and that inflection that he can make, like, internal pain just seems like something you can reach out and grab. And in that scene, like, it was heavy, man. But it was a good heavy. It was like one of those things where it's like, you really understand what a lot of this means. Because, just keeping it 100. For a lot of us young Black Americans, we take for granted a lot of the stuff that we have at our disposal right now. A lot of the freedoms, a lot of the liberties, a lot of that stuff, we straight up, myself included, take for granted. And it's things like that, even in something that's fictional and make-believe, it's things like that that kind of remind you of where we've gone or where we've been and how far we still have to go.
Right.
And that is just the thing that me as a Black man, I don't ever want to forget that. And it's not about harboring or holding in any, like, institutionalized or any passed down anger or hatred towards any group of people. But it's more so about seeing my people evolve to a point where we have shed a lot of the hatred and the hurt and the pain that we've harbored for decades and for centuries. And seeing that scene is a reminder of how important it is for us to get there. So I'm right on that, and that's why I was right on the page with you, homie, when you said I want us to get to a point where that's not a big deal, because that's when we, will really feel like we've made strides. Straight up.
Right. Most definitely. Yeah. That scene it came through again, just a regular from Michael, just saying what I think about Falcon's message. I'm gonna summarize it real fast about, Black Americans need to move forward and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't say it, like, I'm skipping through a little bit because we're about to go here in a little bit. But ultimately, I feel like the only thing in there that I would change is, instead of putting a nationality, color, whatever you want to call it on that, I would just say the new generation of Americans just need to move forward in solidarity, period. Men, women, light, brown, white, it really don't matter in the end of it, because here's a woke statement for you. If you're really paying attention to what's going on, it don't matter what you look like. It don't matter who you are. You are
facts.
You are categorized however you're categorized, and that is how you move forward.
Facts.
Period. It don't matter who you are. So the new generation of Americans just need to move forward solidly. Period.
Exactly that.
We got a couple more super chats.
Yes,
we got
we do.
Enrique Robles came back through with $1.99 and said, Mortal Kombat! Dun, 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 dun. He actually put the dun, dun, dun,
right.
Dun. No, I'm just joking.
Spoiler alert. Fatalities were dope. I will give you that.
Yes.
Best cinematic representation of Mortal Kombat characters to date. The actual character models themselves. We'll get into the rest of that on Thursday, but I'll leave you with that nugget. Since everybody say we so damn negative, there's a positive for you. The character models in the movie were fire, and them fatalities were slapping. I want a sequel, but under certain conditions.
Yeah, I definitely do want.
Under certain conditions.
there, of course, has to be conditions. And one of the big things that I would say, and I can say this, not a spoiler alert, is they need to up that budget. So I'm actually not going to talk negative about it because I want more people to watch it so they can up that budget so the second one is better. And they don't attempt to make another low-budget Mortal Kombat movie and it be Annihilation all over again.
No,
please. What we don't want. I think this is actually a big step up between the two movies, period. And I really think that's mainly because we have the technology now.
Right.
It's not really too much of the elements of the actual story.
Facts.
So, but yeah, then we got Randy Burnside with $2. We're going to end with that one. We got MK, Not My Liu Kang, Super Weak Sauce.
Just wait till Thursday, folks.
Yeah, man.
Come through on Thursday.
So much to say.
We gonna spend a good little minute getting into MK because
definitely.
Am a huge Mortal Kombat fan, and boy, do I have some thoughts.
Yes, he does. And believe it or not, him and I might actually debate about some of his thoughts. Some of his, I'm like, right. Some of them like,
gonna be a fun one on Thursday, boy.
Most definitely. And before you guys go, let's make sure that you know to come back through the week and catch the morning show with your boy Josh. You got Tuesday Debate 8, Wednesday you got Darren's Danger Room with Darren and Josh. Thursday you come back chill with us again. And this week, of course, we don't have any watch parties or nothing like that going on because we get to take a little break from the content.
That's it.
But we're right back again on Saturday with the homie Josh in the morning, and then bring us full circle right back here. You get the business stream in the morning for NERDVENGER Primes, and then you get the afternoon with us, talking and chopping it up. Most likely it'll probably be a lot more laid back next week. So make sure you come in through that, and don't forget to get your nerd level protection from Surfshark.
Oh yeah.
You put in that Surfshark codes, man. You'll use nerds for 83% off, and you get an extra 3 months free. You can't get no better than that. We don't want you to be one of them guys. Don't be one of them guys who lingers too long and complains on the stream about stuff that they don't like, and don't give they give unfair takes. It's probably because they don't have a VPN and they're not us.
Or don't be that guy talking tough behind your computer without a VPN, because in 2021 people know how to find IP addresses, and they will come for you, NERDVENGER.
Yes,
unless you got that Surfshark. But
definitely. Well,
as we always say about this time, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. My man, another good Sunday.
Out. Yes, sir.
And I think it is time for us to let them know that we will catch them in the next episode.
That's good. Definitely good. Now we get to watch the clouds from up here in the tower.
Ain't it beautiful?
It's definitely beautiful. I wonder how many walk away and take the real message from the show, that we all need to be cohesive and understand each other more than walking away with some of the negativity we had today.
That's the wish. That's the wish.
That is the wish.
Every time we get behind this mic, man, I just hope people understand that it's about being together.
Right.
Even in our differences, we are still the same.
Still, yes, exactly. And I'm going to start calling it wish.com. You know why I'm going to call it that?
Why?
Because even when you make the wish and you put it out there, it takes 2 or 3 months before you finally get in order.
Yeah, exactly.
They really live up to that name, for real.
Yes, facts.
Man, another great Sunday. It's always great, man.
Yeah, man. Just love it, man. Just love it.
I guess I have to see you out in them streets.
Oh yeah, man, because every week we always have to.
Yep.
We ain't even say NERDVENGERS this time because it's just like
I know.
The week's already coming. The week's already coming. Feels like even on the weekends I nerd binge.
Every day.
Right. Exactly.
And I just feel like just saying
every day.
Just for the sake of saying
every day.
You should say that. Like
so many things that you should do.
Every day.
Exactly.
Like tell your mama you love her.
Every day.
Brush your teeth.
Every day.
Wash your ass.
Every day.
Avoid haters.
Every day.
Definitely. Facts.
Oh, and most importantly, be sure to check out the Dinner Nerds and the Dinner Nerds Live.
Every day.